Should Christians or even conservatives boycott certain stores that are promoting and selling merchandise and the idea of LGBTQ plus that worldview? For example, Target. That is the topic for today. But first, my name is Susan Morales. If you're new here, my YouTube channel focuses on learning how to follow Jesus in an everyday kind of way. And that means every single day of the week, but not just that. Finding what the Christian worldview is teaching us about how we are to live our everyday life. For example, the topic of today, it's something so common, right? Just to choose what store am I going to go buy what I need. And as a Christian specifically, there is a conflict of interest with some of these stores that are now pushing more of that LGBTQ plus worldview, or like some people say, agenda. And so, what are we supposed to do as Christians? Is there liberty? Should we be more united when it comes to this in boycotting? Today, I'm going to share with you how me and my family are going to go about this topic. Up front, I want to just tell you my answer. It's important to boycott stores, brands that are making the LGBTQ plus agenda part of their own identity as a brand. One thing is to hold such beliefs privately as a CEO, as an employee. That's one thing, but it's another thing when you are actually using your platform, your popularity, your brand in order to impact the culture and to essentially push against traditional Christian views that say that the LGBTQ plus worldview is actually sinful according to the Bible, according to God. So this is why I believe that it's important for us to understand and accept and wake up and realize that we are in the middle of a culture war that has actually been going on for a long while, but we're just starting to pay attention to it because of how in your face it is today. And I want us to realize that we are not neutral when it comes to this. Our actions, our words, all of that is either helping this agenda to get stronger and to reach more people, or we are actually going to help it to get smaller and to be louder and say, hey, you guys are supposed to just be selling things, not selling ideas. And I'm not going to support you with my money until you get back to what you're supposed to be doing, which is just selling me something at a good price with a good quality. And until we get to that place again, it's important for Christians to not fund these stores that are really impacting the culture. So I also believe that as Christians, we don't force people to do anything. So we do not force other Christians. I'm encouraging you and I'm trying to persuade you to boycott Target along with other people who have already been doing so. But this is something that I have been considering for a while now, in the last month or more. And it is something that I had a conversation with my kids about. And I really do want to encourage you to do it, but at the same time, I understand if that's not where you're at. I don't know if you're in a situation where you can't afford to shop anywhere else but Target, or or you just disagree, and that's something that I respect. But I do want to share with you some brief thoughts about why I think you should reconsider. Target is a store that you can just find everywhere. You know what to expect. And it is pretty much locally in most places, right, that you live in. The local Target where I live, it's just like 5 minutes away. So whenever I think, oh, I want to just be able to drive up to a place and get something that I need real quick without actually having to go inside, or I don't want to drive to my grocery store, I'd rather just, go inside that Target that has some groceries there, even though they're going to charge me more. But it's convenient for me to just go here 5 minutes away as opposed to 6, 7, 8 minutes away. It's silly, but that is the advantage that Target has. Like, if it's local, then you would rather go to one place where you can just get all of your things, right, in one trip, especially for moms. I'm a mom of 2 young children, and I can imagine, like, when my babies, they were really babies, that is something that is really difficult to have to put the children in and take them out and then go do it again 2, 3 more times to the other stores, as opposed to just going to Target and getting everything you need and just you're done. So that's been my mentality. Also, I've been someone that likes to go there because they have their own brand that they sell for cheaper. A lot of the products, vitamins or cleaning products, whatever, they always have their, I think it's called Up and Up or something like that. And so I like feeling like, wow, I can just go shop there because it's more affordable. So there's that aspect to it also. And then lastly, I've just thought, okay, well, I can live around the changes that they're making. For example, the first thing that started to be a red flag for me about Target was when I started to hear that they were going to allow men who identify as women to enter the women's dressing rooms and the restrooms. So that is something that makes me nervous as a mom in particular, but also as a woman. It just seems less safe than, for example, having that option, like, they have some of the unisex restrooms, but it's always been nice to know that there's a sense of protection, that employees know men are not supposed to be entering the women's restrooms or the dressing rooms. It's felt like, as a woman, I'm being acknowledged by my society that I am weaker than the stronger males, no matter how they identify, and that was a plus. Unfortunately, it's been years that hasn't been the case in a lot of stores and in a lot of places, but in particular Target. And so little by little, I started noticing that Target is starting to put more of their merchandise. Started with a little bit, now this year it's like way more. It's on onesies, it's for the whole family, it's just in your face. It's mugs, it's a lot of different things. And it's right in the beginning of the store, so when my kids are walking into the store and when we're walking towards the cashiers, they are looking, obviously, they're like wondering what these things are. And that's just not why I want to walk into a store. I walk in not to teach my kids about the LGBTQ worldview. I want to just go in, buy something, and not make it seem like that's something that's normal, that's something that they have to believe in. Obviously, as a parent, you could just have a conversation with your kids and tell them, this is what it is, this is what we don't believe, that's why we don't buy anything from here. And that's one way, right? If you're still going to shop at Target, one thing that I would encourage you to do is maybe don't shop as much during Pride Month. And it's already started. Even in May, they start putting their merchandise early. I think Pride Month is on June. So definitely, if you can, maybe consider doing a smaller boycott on the months of May and June. But if you're trying to make a larger decision, like you don't want to fund Target with your money, even if you feel like my money is just pennies compared to like everything that they make. Well, your pennies are helping them to create these things, to pay for the people that are designing these things, that are making these things, and all of that. So what we do the rest of the year is what Target is using so that they can do this during May and June. And also, another thing is that things like sin usually don't just stay on stop. They usually just keep pushing and pushing and getting greater and getting worse. So if you think it's not a big deal this year, what you're seeing, just remember it's probably most likely, I can almost guarantee you that it's going to get worse next year. So for example, I heard a few videos on the topic. It's really cool because I was actually thinking about this already, and I was, planning on making a video, but it's been really nice to hear other YouTubers one of them used to be a YouTuber, well, still sort of is. I'm talking about Matt Walsh, and he's mostly on Twitter now, which is what I was trying to get at. But also Ali, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but I'm going to link their two videos, their responses about Target, in the description below for you to check out and hear some other perspectives and information and videos. And so in those videos, I saw that they are selling bathing suits that are essentially for men to hide their body part so that they can look more female. And then there are, like I mentioned, onesies and all the things. I'll show a video right here about what I recorded when I first started seeing these things again. And it's not just there, but honestly, I think that you can also find some books that are promoting. Actually, I do remember going to another Target, and they had on display books, but they had a lot of LGBTQ books for kids as well, promoting that. And I remember I didn't get the feel that it was Pride Month, so I think maybe in some places they just have them in the bookshelves like that year round. But something that's disturbing to me as well is that the website is also, it also has that merchandise, and they're using certain people that look a certain way to promote these things. So like I said, Target is not just selling things anymore, they're selling ideas. They want you not just to buy their merchandise with the LGBTQ plus those things, but they want you to associate them with this worldview, and they want you to think like them. So even if you don't buy anything, the more your kids see it, the more common they think, normal, this is the world, this is the real world. And sometimes parents do lose credibility with their own kids, and kids think, especially if like you take your kids to school, you lose influence. I'm a homeschooling parent, and I've seen this firsthand. I see how much more influential I am as a homeschooling parent versus how less influential my parents were while I was going to public schools. My teachers were more influential. I believed them. They knew more than my parents, right? The movies, the TV shows. So you're already dealing with that as a parent. And so like every single time, every week you go to Target, they're seeing, oh, the world is saying that this is okay. And so what do you think that's going to do to them? It's like that phrase, what is it? Death by a million paper cuts. It's a little thing until it just persuades them in an indirect way. That's what I had to say about what's going on at Target and why I think that it's important for us to boycott Target. Either you do it during the months of Pride Month, which is I'm saying June, but also May, or you consider doing a permanent boycott. Ali, the video that I saw, she mentioned that she has been boycotting Target 1 year and that it's been hard for her at times, especially sometimes because Target exclusively sells certain brands. And oh well, it's a sacrifice. I made a poll on my community tab, and that's what I'm looking at here. So I asked people to vote that yes, they should boycott a store or company when they sell Pride Month merchandise. And so the first option is yes, only during Pride Month. 4% said that that's what they believe, out of 24 votes. And then 38% said yes, but permanently, that yes, you should boycott, but like permanently, like stop shopping there. Nobody said the option no, I support Pride Month. And then the one that was most popular said no, I just won't buy merchandise. So apparently, there are some people that maybe they don't want to boycott Target for all the reasons that obviously it's more convenient. Maybe you'll feel differently next year. We don't know. But we are in a culture war, and we do have the Christian worldview, and we should be loud. We are the ones that make these companies rich. So why shouldn't we have a say about what we want to see, how we want them to serve us? We want them to sell us. We tell them what to sell at Target by how much we buy, right? And so obviously, like if you just don't buy the LGBTQ merchandise, then sure, it does communicate a message, but does it really like wake up Target like conservatives woke up Budweiser? That boycott like really brought their company low, and it actually caused them to fire people and to put new people and to change the way they market their beer. So I think that if we were to boycott Target, even just for a few months, even if it was just for this coming month, maybe that would wake up Target and remind them that, hey, you're in this business to make money, not to teach the LGBTQ worldview. Along with the poll, I asked you guys to comment, and so here's what some of you had to say. Maximum Overdrive wrote, when it comes to boycotting companies, I generally will boycott a company if, at its core, it takes a stand that is against my Christian values. As far as individual merchandise, I would say no to boycotting. If you follow the path of boycotting an entire company based off one or two items they sell, then you essentially won't have anywhere left to buy. I can assure you almost no company avoids selling a particular themed item or service that would be antithetical to Christ. And this person makes a really good point, because if you think about it, there are so many stores today that are selling, they have a small section where they're selling Pride Month things. For example, the other day I went into my local Walgreens, and lo and behold, there was a tiny little section, but still it's there selling this merchandise for LGBTQ. And I was also thinking about, well, that's true that maybe it is the case that all of these large corporations would make it impossible for us to shop at a place that they actually don't sell these things. But also, how come we're not as offended by other things that also go against what our Christian values teach? And I'll just let you kind of think for a moment what those things might be. And so there is some truth to this, that there are a lot of things that we're not always going to agree that are being sold in our stores, in our neighborhoods. So there needs to be some wisdom. So let's continue.
Technically speaking, public schools are secular indoctrination that teach everything under the sun contrary to Christianity. In fact, teachers as well as students are barred from mentioning Christ in most public schools, yet entire lessons are devoted to Islam or Buddhism. Should boycotting them be mandatory for Christians? That being said, I think especially with recent events, public schools should be avoided by Christians. I am blessed enough to offer an alternative to my daughter, but most people cannot. I really think you have to look at what God puts on your heart in regards to what to avoid. Paul talks about a similar topic when writing about eating meat. Back in the day, meat was prepped in pagan temples, then sold in the market. Paul cautioned Christians not to be a stumbling block for others with something that could be considered a non-issue. If eating meat bothers one person, then they shouldn't eat it. If it doesn't bother another person, then no big deal. Warranted though, this doesn't mean that a Christian should participate in the rituals themselves. Such an act would be blasphemous. And I think that's what I was hinting at, is there liberty in the beginning? There is a lot of liberty when it comes to a lot of things related to Christianity. So, of course, one person's conscience might not be as sensitive as another one's when it comes to, for example, boycotting Target and other stores that are influencing the culture by what they're selling. And so I think it's important for us to not brush it off, but to really consider what are the consequences, even though we have this grace and liberty as Christians. In closing this long-winded post, I would cite an example I have in my life. I enjoy a wide array of movies. A lot of them have magic, violence, sex, etc. At times I can get asked how I can watch such things and be a Christian. I won't say the question has some merit to it, but I would say that watching movies don't promote my desire to perform the acts I see nor shape my values toward such things. A movie I'm sure everyone has seen would be The Avengers. It involves magic, profanity, violence, etc. Yet I certainly wouldn't tell people to not watch it if they are Christian. If someone has an issue about watching, then I would encourage not to watch it, but beyond that, I realize that what I'm watching is complete fiction. Several Christians throughout history have written or designed works that involve the fantastical, such as C.S. Lewis or J.R.R. Tolkien. Should we boycott them? When a child daydreams about being a superhero or that their dolls and toys are alive, should we immediately correct them? I believe there are much bigger and more threatening issues that are in the world, and trying to avoid everything we only diminish our efforts to spread the word of Christ. The only things I boycott when it comes to fiction is movies or books that paint Satan in a good light or God in a bad one. Prime example is Netflix's Lucifer. I refuse to watch the show at all. For the same reason I stopped watching Supernatural, it blatantly mocked God and painted Satan in a positive light. So definitely, I agree that sometimes it's okay for us to watch certain things. And as long as we know and we tell our children, for example, this is fiction, and we explain, in the real world, we wouldn't believe this because that actually goes, if it's into the category of this other religion, and, that's contrary to what we believe as Christians. So although we might be okay watching something, we should also be aware of how these messages are going to land on younger people, for example, that are not as aware of other worldviews quite just yet. So the last thing, anyways, I've talked your ear off enough. I hope you and your family are well. Let me know if I can ever be of assistance. God bless. Thank you so much. So the next comment is Aaron Jones. And he says, I don't know, man. If I boycotted a shop because they were promoting or selling during Pride Month, I don't think I could go in a single shop for a whole month because all shops celebrate it nowadays. So it's the same sentiment, like, is there really a store that is not selling these things? And I think what we can do instead is, well, which store is the one that is putting it right in your face at the entrance, for example, Or, what store has the most little children that will be impacted by the merchandise that they're, designing for kids, or you know what I mean? Which one is the one that's causing more damage? For example, the way that Budweiser was, promoting this person, Dylan Mulvaney, and how the men pretty much, women too, but the men were the most vocal, and they said, nope, not doing it, I'm done with Budweiser. I mean, it just sends a message, and if we don't send a message, then I think we're losing as Christians. We're losing influence over the places that we shop, and we're losing influence in the culture as well. And last but not least, Trinity Radio wrote, unfortunately, it becomes unlivable now to boycott every seller who does this. Instead, we should choose a particular store and make a point by agreeing to boycott them specifically. This worked great on Budweiser. And that's true. Again, when everyone agreed, okay, and mostly because it was like the first thing that everyone agreed, we definitely need to boycott this. This is not something we're about. And I think though that the difference between Budweiser and Target is that Budweiser was easy to boycott because it has a bad reputation of tasting terrible anyway, and so Target, unfortunately, it has not the same reputation. A lot of people are really attached to their store, and it will be a harder thing for especially women to let go of. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section if you want to comment on any of these comments that I read, or if you wanted to share your own comments.
If you're on the fence about this topic, well, what does Christianity have to say about LGBTQ plus? Why can't we just affirm them, be loving to them, by not going against what they believe, by not boycotting? Why can't we just, be those kind of Christians? Well, I recently interviewed someone that actually left that lifestyle, that worldview, and he is now teaching the Christian worldview as to how it relates to sexuality. And I would really, really encourage you to watch that interview. So informative, especially for parents, but for people that have family members that are dealing with these things, and it's very difficult. And he provides really good answers and strategies for learning to navigate through those challenges, especially as Christians. And one more thing, if you liked this video, please let me know by liking it or leave me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are about you boycotting Target. Maybe you don't even go to Target, but what about the local store that is promoting the LGBTQ worldview, that is selling that mentality, that agenda? What do you think you're going to do with regards to that? How do you think you can influence the culture today?